Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool to find the right size for your digging project. Visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. Thank you for hanging around. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Alea is an author, blogger, fellow gardener, and the founder of premeditatedleftovers.com. She's passionate about being frugal in some areas so people can splurge in others, and she encourages people to eat well but spend less. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, we thank you for taking time out of your day, not only to educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country, and we thank you for that. Well, where did the ideal for your website come from? Everybody's got a little story, a backstory on websites and their names. How did yours come about?
Well, the idea for my website actually came about while I was teaching a budgeting for baby class at Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. I was a budget counselor, and it's a nonprofit that helps sailors and Marines with finances. And one of the things I would teach them is that the area of the budget that they have the greatest control over is food. We can't negotiate our house payment or our rent, can't negotiate car payments, but we can work with sales and coupons and how we process food and what we buy to control our grocery budget and save money in that area. And one of the things I had the most pushback on was on eating leftovers. And so I started questioning the sailors what their objection was to leftovers, and one of the things I realized is they didn't know how to cook from scratch. So processed foods often don't taste good as leftovers. And so I realized that what I needed to do if I wanted to make a difference and try to make leftovers cool, and something that frugal people did, not something that poor people did, and make it standardized, was to teach how to cook from scratch, because everybody knows, grandma's spaghetti sauce tastes better the next day, right? But processed food, not as much. So that's where the idea originally came from.
Now, was you shocked at finding that the sailors didn't know how to cook from scratch, or was that kind of, once you figured it out, was that kind of a shock to you?
It was, actually, because both my mother and my father cooked and taught me how to cook as a child. So it really was a surprise for me. Now I'm also older. I'm in my 50s, and I hadn't realized the effect of how much easier it is now to buy processed foods, and how that was a skill that wasn't being passed down to our younger generation.
Well, yeah, and we see that we're in a society of drive-thrus and quick microwave meals. The whole getting together and actually knowing where the flour and the sugar and the yeast and make that type of thing. It's not getting passed down, like you said, as frequently as maybe it should.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So your book is called Prep Ahead: Meals from Scratch, and what is the book about? And also, what is a notable tip or just something that maybe you've heard your readers enjoy?
So one of the things, because we are in this fast food generation and this quick microwave meal generation, I realized that if I wanted people to cook from scratch, I needed to make it easy for them. And so in each chapter at the beginning, I teach multiple ways to pre-cook or batch cook proteins from scratch. So chicken, pork, beef, rice, beans. Teach them how multiple different ways. That way people can use whatever cooking tools they have available, because not everybody has a slow cooker or an Instant Pot. Some people have an oven but not a broiler. So that's why there's the multiple ways. And then after that, in each chapter, there's 20 recipes showing how to use this pre-cooked protein in recipes that they can use throughout the week. Now, one of the most notable tips that I've found that people have found surprising is that you can, while you're making dinner on Sunday night, you can do your batch cooking for most of the week. So if you're making a roast for dinner on Sunday night, at the same time you can make a triple batch of rice, you can have chicken in the slow cooker, beans in the Instant Pot, or you can have all 4 burners covered making food for the week. And that way throughout the week, all you have to do is take these pre-cooked proteins, combine them with fresh vegetables, and then quickly and easily have dinner on the table.
Well, I mean, for those of us who are new to meal planning, what are some good tips that you can offer that is enthusiastic but also inspiring? Because some people will look at that and go, I don't know if I can plan for meals for all week. That seems a little daunting for me and my family.
Yes. Well, one of the things that I suggest is to sit down as a family and ask everybody what their favorites are. I've even been surprised, and I update this as my kids get older, because the kid who wouldn't eat one vegetable when he was young changes, once he becomes a teenager and will eat everything in sight. So I sit down at least once a year and ask everybody, what are your favorite foods? If you can make a list of 14 meals, there you go. You have 2 weeks of meal planning. One of the things I also did when my kids were really little and they were more in the picky phase is I had planned nights. I mean, Taco Tuesday is a thing for a reason. So I knew tacos were being served on Tuesday. 1 week it was chicken, 1 week it was traditional hamburger, another time it was pork. But I already basically knew what I was preparing. Another thing we did is we did Spaghetti Western Wednesday. My grandma liked the old Bonanza and all those shows, so I would put on one of those shows and make spaghetti, and it was just a fun thing. And so if you know that, you can plan in advance. You can have the refried beans for taco night. You can have the spaghetti sauce or the tomato sauce in the pantry to make those, so it's not only do I have to make a long, exhaustive grocery list, I have to make a meal plan and a grocery list. But if you have some things planned out, you can rely on that same meal plan and that same grocery list to simplify it for yourself.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, Holly doesn't mind leftovers. I'm not a big fan of most leftovers, unless it's like, leftover ribs or pizza or something like that.
Really?
What?
You like leftover chili.
Leftover chili. But for people who are kind of like not in that leftover thing, how can we view this differently? Maybe from a financial standpoint and from a health standpoint.
Or just make them maybe a bit more appealing.
Make it look better. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually people will often tell me I don't like leftovers. And it's funny because the whole reason that I have the name premeditated leftovers is my daughter came up with that name to describe my cooking when she was really little, because my oldest son did not like leftovers. In fact, when my grandma was staying with us, one night it was Taco Tuesday, and then for Wednesday at lunchtime I said, how about leftover tacos for lunch? And my son said, ugh, stale food. And I was horrified, because my grandma was visiting. And and she just started laughing. She thought it was so funny. But then she said to him, do you like taco salad? He goes, oh, I love taco salad. And she's like, Mom, how about instead of tacos, how about if you make taco salad? And it was almost the exact same ingredients, but it was prepared in a different way. And so he embrace that. And that is one of the things I do, is now for my husband, he can eat the same leftovers day after day. So for his lunches, I will serve him leftovers. But I often take our leftovers, and instead of viewing it as just what we're going to eat for leftovers for lunch the next day, I look at it as a base of a new recipe. So the teriyaki chicken becomes Asian chicken salad. Things like that. The taco meat becomes taco salad. So you can do things like that, or you can even throw them in to a soup. Or one of the things that my kids love are quesadillas. And you add tortillas and cheese. My husband and I live in the Southwest, and you can put anything between two tortillas as long as you spread enough cheese on it, and it becomes a whole new meal. Even barbecue chicken, my kids love it as quesadillas.
Well, and from taco to taco salad, many people, if not everybody, eats with their eyes first and then their mouth second. So if you can appease the eye, then the taste, you've kind of got over the hump at that point.
Yes. And now for the people who do like leftovers, one of the things I found is that if you just put your leftovers back in bowls in the fridge, they get shoved to the back and forgotten. And then after a couple days, everybody's like, I don't really want to eat that. But so one of the things I do is I pre-package at dinner time. If I'm making my husband's lunches, I might take it, whatever's left over, and serve it over rice as a rice bowl. Those are really popular right now, but I do it immediately into individual bowls. So all either he or I have to do is grab one of those pre-made bowls and put it in the lunch sack. And so we've made a plan for how it's going to be used so it doesn't end up in the back as a science project.
I think that definitely makes a lot of sense.
What was this?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're having it for lunch the next day, prepping ahead, you don't have to think about it. You just grab and go. Yeah, for sure. Now, I know many people sometimes when they view like, okay, I'm going to make this protein for this week, certain things like chicken and even often sometimes pork, doesn't carry over well after a few days, and it has like, I don't know, for me, it has kind of a rubbery, weird taste. Do you have any suggestions for that, for preparing those proteins to make them a little bit more appealing by the time you get past like the third day?
Yeah, but first I want to tell you, sometimes if they're dry or they're rubbery, I recommend changing the cooking method, or maybe even the cut. One of the things that we do with pork and with chicken is we tend to get very fat-free. We try to get cuts that have as little fat as possible, and so we do end up with drier cuts. So I prefer chicken thighs over chicken breasts. They're moister, they keep better, they last all week, they're just great. And the same with pork. I buy a cut that has a little bit more fat on it than, those little beautiful pork chops that they look pretty, they're all pink in the grocery store, but they just don't turn out as well and keep as well. But one of the things I do is, another reason why they aren't as appealing later is because they're a little bit blander meats. But the blandness can be a gift to us because that blandness means they can take on the flavor of whatever we want to turn them into. So if you don't have a lot of seasoning on them, you can add honey mustard, dice it, add honey mustard, make a wrap, add it to a salad, or buffalo ranch, add that seasoning to it, dice it, add it, and then put it over a baked potato, over rice, over a salad. And one of the things, though, if you are cooking it, if you're adding it, with the salads, they can be served cold. But if you're going to cook it, one of the things you want to remember is to add it at the very last minute and then only cook it until it's heated through. Because we don't want to overcook that already pre-cooked chicken. And since it's already cooked to a safe temperature, all we have to do is cook it until it's warm enough to be palatable. But another thing I like to do is when I make chicken, I like to have flavors that I know can be used later. Like with teriyaki chicken, I mentioned it can go into an Asian chicken salad. You can take teriyaki chicken and then turn it into an Asian chicken and rice soup. If I have like a garlic and herb chicken, I might make a chicken and Parmesan bake with it. So if you kind of plan your flavors for the first meal, then you can plan how you're going to use it in future meals.
A lot of great information you've provided for us, Alea. Where can people find more about you? Where can they get your book at?
You can find me, my main blog is premeditatedleftovers.com. You can find me anywhere on social media as Alea Milham. And my book is available wherever books are sold. It's Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I think it's even available on the websites on Target and Walmart.com and places like that.
Definitely a book that would be very practical in the society and the situations that we're in now to maximize the food that we are preparing and try to get the most out of everything that we've grown and purchased.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. I've appreciated chatting.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.